Secretary, a lot of people are watching this news conference, including several young women who say they were teenagers when Jeffrey Epstein sexually assaulted them. They say they went to you looking for help, and they didn't hear back from you until it was too late. Do you owe them an apology?
Legalese, politics, and judicial system mumbo-jumbo is complex, and it's easy to get lost in the mountains of court records and accusations and dates and appeals. But as we saw in the O.J. Simpson case and in this 2007 Epstein debacle, the bottom line is that if you can spend the cheddar, your life will go better. Today was the Alexander Acosta Press Conference. Yesterday, on July 9th, Vicki Ward from Vanity Fair wrote this article in the Daily Beast. Remember, Vicki Ward has an extensive history of digging into Epstein and wrote one of the earliest profiles on him back in 2003. Let's go over what she wrote in the Daily Beast. And the reason I bring this up is that not one reporter during this press conference brings it up at all. Not one. And you'd think they would have when you hear what she wrote. It kind of looks like she's saying Epstein's real job was to run a blackmail operation to ensnare some of the most wealthy and powerful people on earth. Here's what she wrote. Acosta had been asked, is the Epstein case going to cause a problem for confirmation hearings? Acosta explained breezily, apparently, that back in the day, he'd had just one meeting on the Epstein case. He'd cut the non-prosecution deal with one of Epstein's attorneys because he had, quote, been told to back off, that Epstein was above his pay grade. Quote, I was told Epstein belonged to intelligence and to leave him alone. This is what he told his interviewers in the Trump transition, who evidently thought it was a sufficient answer and went ahead and hired Acosta. The Labor Department had no comment when asked about this. For almost 2 decades, for some nebulous reason, whether to do with ties to foreign intelligence, his billions of dollars, or his social connections, Epstein, whose alleged sexual sickness and horrific assaults on women without means or ability to protect themselves is well known in his circle, remained untouchable. Now guys, this is the exact opposite of what James Patterson told Fox yesterday. Patterson said nobody knew what was going on. And if you missed that video, I'll drop the link in the description. Vicki Ward continues, I spent many months on his trial in 2002 for Vanity Fair and discovered not only that he was not who he claimed to be professionally, but also that he had allegedly assaulted 2 young sisters, one of whom had been underage at the time. Very bravely, they were prepared to go on record. They were afraid he'd use all of his influence to discredit them, and their fear turned out to be legitimate. As the article was being readied for publication, Epstein made a visit to the office of Vanity Fair's then editor, Graydon Carter, and suddenly the women and their allegations were removed from the article. Quote, he's sensitive about the young women, Carter told me at the time. And here's the Daily Beast editor's note. Carter has previously denied this allegation. He also mentioned he'd finagled a photograph of Epstein in a swimsuit out of the encounter. And there was also some feeble excuse about the article, quote, being stronger than a business story. Looks like the Daily Beast writes, Epstein had also leaned heavily on my ex-husband's uncle, Conrad Black, to try to exert his influence on me, which was particularly unwelcome, given that Black happened to be my ex-husband's boss at the time. Now, a lot of people assume that Epstein was untouchable merely because he had so much dirt on so many powerful people, but it increasingly looks like it might be way bigger than that. Some people think he may have been untouchable because he was systematically collecting this information on behalf of an intelligence agency. Now, if that's true, don't you think we need to find out precisely who he was working for? This is kind of a big deal. I have no doubt that at least some of these reporters in this room read this Daily Beast article. So why no questions about it? Now, in this press conference, it looks like Alexander Acosta portrayed himself as the hero of the Jeffrey Epstein case and blamed everybody else involved for letting the alleged serial abuser of girls get away with a slap on the wrist. During the conference, the Labor Secretary defended his decision when he was a federal prosecutor last decade not to prosecute Epstein, a move that has led to calls for his resignation and a demand by Trump to get in front of the cameras and defend himself. He said, "We believe that we proceeded appropriately." He also said, "I'm pleased that the New York prosecution is going forward. His acts are despicable, and the New York prosecution affords an opportunity to more fully bring Jeffrey Epstein to justice." The new allegations from SDNY, which Epstein denies, are almost identical to those made a decade ago in Florida, where he was accused of preying on girls at his Palm Beach estate. Acosta blamed Florida prosecutors for botching the original case against Epstein and said he was the one that saved it.
The agreement that had been negotiated had an unusual provision. Even though this was a state case, the victims would have the opportunity to receive restitution. Epstein would be required to pay for them to hire a lawyer to bring a case against him, a case in which he would have to plead no contest and provide them with restitution. And the concern, and these are the words of the career prosecutor, that, quote, "She did not want to share with the victims that the office was attempting to secure for them the ability to obtain monetary compensation, because she is aware that if she disclosed that and the negotiations fell through, Epstein's counsel would use this to question the victim's credibility." And her concerns were not hypothetical. One of Epstein's attorneys had already asked one of the victims, quote, "Now tell me about when the federal prosecutors told you about getting money."
In 2007, Acosta was the U.S. attorney in southern Florida and struck a non-prosecution deal with Epstein after issuing him an ultimatum: plead guilty to a state charge or else face graver federal charges. Acosta said, simply put, the Palm Beach State Attorney's Office was willing to let Epstein walk free. No jail time, nothing. Prosecutors in my former office found this to be completely unacceptable, and they became involved. Former Palm Beach State Attorney Barry Krischer disputed Acosta's claim, saying, quote, "His recollection of the matter is completely wrong." In a statement released shortly after Acosta's press conference, Krischer said the indictment against Epstein fell apart after secret negotiations between Acosta and Epstein's lawyer that state prosecutors were excluded from. Krischer said, if Mr. Acosta was truly concerned with the state's case and felt he had to rescue the matter, he would have moved forward with the 53-page indictment that his own office drafted. Instead, Mr. Acosta brokered a secret plea deal that resulted in a non-prosecution agreement in violation of the Crime Victims' Rights Act. Epstein was charged by Florida prosecutors in 2007, and Acosta claimed, quote, "It was the threat of federal prosecution that convinced Epstein to plead guilty in state court to a heavier charge of soliciting prostitution. Epstein was sentenced to 18 months behind bars as a result, serving only 13 of those before he was released. And those 13 months were on work release, where he was basically allowed to come and go as he pleased." But Acosta blamed the cushy terms on Florida authorities. Acosta also said that passing on certain prison time to try and convict Epstein in federal court would have been akin to a roll of the dice. Acosta said the goal here was straightforward: put Epstein behind bars, ensure he registered as a sex offender, provide victims with the means to seek restitution, and protect the public by putting them on notice that a sexual predator was in their midst. Epstein's office also extended the agreement to Epstein's 4 co-conspirators, but said he would not have if prosecutors suspected them of personally abusing children. One of Epstein's alleged victims, Courtney Wild, said this week that she never felt like the U.S. attorney was on her side. In defending himself, Acosta took the approach, don't back down, just double down. Acosta said, "My relationship with the president is outstanding. I think that he has very publicly said that I have his support." Acosta's public defense came a day after Trump defended him, saying he feels very badly and he will look very closely into Epstein's plea agreement. One former Trump administration official reportedly said the administration should have gotten rid of Acosta after the original Miami Herald story. Even if he did nothing technically illegal, the optics of the plea deal are awful. To give a monster like Epstein such a friendly deal should disqualify Acosta from ever holding another job in the public sector ever again. Guys, it's all politics. The ruling class puts on these shows for us on the grand stage to get us to believe that justice will be served, only to find out later that not only was justice not served, more perversion gets uncovered because the web of absolute filth grows like weeds on steroids in Washington's District of Criminals. Leave your thoughts about this for the world and the Google Thought Police in the comments section below. If you guys enjoy these videos, be sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification icon, give it a thumbs up, and share it with everybody you know. Also, check out over 100 hard-hitting designs in the shirt store, and if you want to support more content, hit me up on Patreon or PayPal. All those links will be in the description and in the pinned comment. I'll see you guys in the next heavily censored shadow ban video.